you know, even with the economy being a little, we still, there's way being that. Yeah, we're almost done on the cabinets.
All right. Stop.
Yeah, that's been, so I took them all the doors off.
All laid out.
Yeah, put 2 coats of primer, 2 coats of paint. We're just about there. I think Saturday I should be putting it all back.
Good to go?
together.
Okay. Call the meeting to order. If everyone please stand for the pledge and remain standing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to take a moment to remember one of our fallen heroes. Corporal Gary Llewellyn passed away. Gary was a member of the Frostburg City Police Department for 32 years. He served alongside Kevin, served alongside me. He was a good friend, and we all will miss him. So we'd like to say a prayer in his memory.
Father, we thank you for Gary and for his life and what he meant to so many people in this room and to the town of Frostburg and to people in general who were here. Father, we pray that you would be with his family, provide them peace, not just today, but in the next coming days as they're making plans, and as they continue to go through the weeks and months that come after this. Father, I pray that you would be with them, be with all of his friends and family as they take time to remember him and provide them peace during this time. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I'll be seated. All yours.
Commissioner Donnie Carter,
Here.
Commissioner Kevin Grove,
Here.
Commissioner Adam Ritchie,
Here.
Mayor Robert Flanagan,
Here.
and Commissioner Forsyth was not able to attend tonight.
Very good. Thank you. Start the meeting with the approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda for this evening?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
And also approval of minutes from our past meetings.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes of the past meetings.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And special presentations and requests. Police Department this evening has a number of special recognitions, result of a incident that occurred just a couple weeks ago on Bowery Street that actually went exactly almost textbook the way we're all trained to handle it, and Commissioner Grove was actually kind of the leader of the pack in helping make the apprehension. So, Chief, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Real quick, just right off the bat, I want to give a special thanks to Pastor Kristen Beeman, who is our department's chaplain. For those of you who haven't met her, she provides volunteer service to the police department, and I want to thank her for the prayer in remembrance of retired Corporal Gary Llewellyn, who passed away overnight. So, as you know, police work is very unpredictable. You know, there are times it's very low-key. There's times we might have to handle a parking matter, or we're doing our positive community policing type things at the schools and directing traffic. And other times it'll just get chaotic. And one of the challenging things is you never know when that's going to happen. So on Friday, March 24th, 2023, in the afternoon, we got a call from the area of Bowery Street near Mechanic Street for a shooting that had just occurred. And the first staff member being recognized as PCO2 Mary Gracie. So she took the call. I'd like to invite her up here and talk to you some about her excellent work. So come on up. So our police dispatchers are always on duty. We always have somebody covering the phones and the radios on the front desk. We always have a point of contact here at the police department. So some of these things are for routine business, but they are also emergency calls like this. So on this Friday afternoon, Mary received a phone call at the police station about this shooting that had just occurred. And I wish there was some way I could convey to you the chaos that comes through when this happens. Because you have Mary, PCO Gracie, who's taking the initial call. She's trying to dispatch the officers, trying to coordinate EMS response, trying to listen to other agencies on the radio. And all along the way, there are always 5 or 6 people trying to call in, seeing what's going on too. So you have one person trying to handle about 10 things at one time. Extremely dangerous. Obviously, arresting the suspect and preserving the safety of the police officers is the #1 priority, and Mary did an outstanding job. So first of all, she had to get the information from the caller and dispatch the officers there. But as the incident progressed, the shooter, the person who had shot the victim, called as well. He had left the scene, and Mary just used outstanding communication skills, good judgment, good coordination with the officers to get the suspect to come back to the scene and come up to the officers where he was safely arrested later. So this was a situation where somebody had been shot, the suspect left the scene, he called in, and Mary basically convinced him to come back to the scene and take care of it, which is not an easy task. So between managing all that chaos and working with the suspect, coordinating with the officers to make sure things were handled safely and effectively, it really was a textbook operation, and you were right at the center of that. So I truly appreciate your outstanding work, and we are honored to present you with this meritorious service commendation. We are very appreciative of your great work. So if you wouldn't mind hanging out up here, maybe we could do each of them and then take a nice group picture if you want to hang out over there. Thank you very much. So, of course, the 2 responding officers on duty were Corporal Jordan Cook and Sergeant Matthew Beeman. So if Jordan would like to come up. And as the mayor said, and as I mentioned a moment ago, this was really a textbook response. These are extremely volatile, extremely dangerous situations. There have been many times where a suspect appears to be cooperative, and maybe when they're being handcuffed or, taken into custody, they'll suddenly turn on you, pull a gun, and shoot you. It's terrible to think about. It does happen when we go through our training. We see videos, body camera videos, dash cam videos of these types of things happening. So even though Mary had been outstanding in convincing the suspect to come back, you don't know how that's going to go and how cooperative they're going to be. So Corporal Cook was one of the initial responding officers, along with Sergeant Beeman, and their team, again, just did an outstanding job. They got to the scene, they made contact with the suspect, they gave good, clear verbal commands, they used good de-escalation, good scene control. It was just exactly what you would want to see. The suspect did still have the handgun on him. He had just shot this guy on Bowery Street. He was there. You don't know what he's going to do. So they arrested him, took him safely into custody, and secured the handgun. So I want to thank you for your courage and congratulate you on an outstanding job. And we have a meritorious service commendation for you as well. And we'll be honored to give you a new commendation bar for your uniform as well, along with Sergeant Beeman. Well deserved. Thank you very much. Great job. Sergeant Beeman, if you would join me, sir. So not only did these guys respond to the scene and manage a very volatile and very dangerous incident and take the suspect into custody quickly and safely, the shift supervisor, Matt, the shift sergeant, has to coordinate all the notifications, has to make sure that either through Mary or through somebody that the mayor gets notified, the police chief, C3I, who comes and does the follow-up investigation. I'd say Commissioner Grove, but he was already there. We're going to get to him in a minute, but there's just a lot of coordination to do in addition to the basic response. So not only did these guys respond to a very dangerous, very volatile situation, not only did they effectively get it under control, arrest the suspect, and secure the handgun, they also had to make all the coordinations, all the notifications, and those sorts of things. And that's a lot on your plate. If you've ever been in one of these chaotic scenes, that's very hard to describe how it is. But Matt is always calm, cool, and collected under pressure. Nothing ever rattles him. They did a textbook job on the police operation and a textbook job on the supervisory management aspect of it. So I want to thank you for your outstanding service as always. Great leadership. And honored to present you with this meritorious service commendation as well. Thank you very much. Now, if I could ask Commissioner Grove to join me, and if the mayor would join us. So many of you know that Commissioner Grove's a retired police officer. He worked here for 41 years and was always an inspiration, a man who loves this city and loves his police department. And he was retired, happy, life was going well, but only for a couple months. Then he ran for office and became our police commissioner. And I'm very glad you did. Always appreciate your encouragement and the positive things you've done for the department. And he's still helping us to fight crime. So on this day, the Friday afternoon when the shooting occurred, Commissioner Grove was working his school security job. He was actually coming home. He works for another department doing armed security at one of the schools. And he was coming home, you know, a little bit in the afternoon after 3 o'clock or so, and he hears this call go out for a very serious felony crime. Somebody just shot on Bowery Street. I think he may have been the first one at the scene, if I'm not mistaken, or very close to it. So Commissioner Grove was there, and he too was right with Sergeant Beeman and Corporal Cook, handling the matter in a textbook police operation, talking with the suspect, getting him secured safely, securing the firearm, and helping with some of the coordination and those sorts of things. So this is a man who's retired from police work, who has more or less volunteered to run for the city council, and he more or less volunteered his time to come and make sure our officers were safe, that the suspect who had just shot somebody was securely taken into custody. And there's certainly, as I said, very serious risk of personal harm and even death, potentially dealing with somebody with a handgun that just shot somebody. So these guys all showed outstanding courage, and Commissioner Grove has demonstrated outstanding leadership for our department, leading by example as always. We truly appreciate you. So I've had the honor to sign this certificate along with Mayor Flanagan, recognizing you for your meritorious service, sir. Thank you very much. And the victim is doing fine. Commissioner Grove talked to him just a few days ago. He is recovered. He's got some swelling and some injury, but he was able to speak, and he's out of the hospital. So that's a blessing and a very fortunate thing. So these things do happen. We had 3 shooting-related incidents last year, 2 where people were shot, but they were all isolated incidents where the people knew each other. We've made arrests in each case, but I just want you to know that these are very serious incidents that can happen anytime in police work. We're very appreciative of these folks and everybody in our department who responds to these things. You don't know when they're going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen when you get there. You don't know if the suspect is still there. In the other cases, the suspect had fled, but we figured out who they were through investigation, got warrants for them, and arrested them later. This had an amplified safety issue because the suspect was still there with the handgun, which presents a very imminent risk of death or serious bodily injury. So that's why they're being specially recognized. We appreciate you all so much, and we appreciate all of our police officers and PCOs every day. So if you'd be kind enough to have a group picture, maybe we could slide over this way a little bit. Stand up now. Thank you all for your outstanding service.
Thank you all guys
Thanks for
very much.
Thanks to all the families who came tonight to support them, to see them recognized, and who bear the burden of their loved ones coming to work here every day, knowing the risks and knowing what can happen. But we also are appreciative of their support for them and their bravery. So thank you all for coming out tonight.
Go enjoy the nice weather. Moving along, we need a motion second to accept all the monthly reports from all the various departments here at the city.
I'll make a motion to approve the monthly reports of the city departments.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
And that will take us to public hearings.
Good evening. Tonight we have a public hearing as the constant yield tax rate hearing as required by the state of Maryland. This notification was published in the Cumberland Times News on Thursday, April 6th, and tonight was advertised as the public hearing. So I'd like to read this information for the public. The The mayor and city council of the city of Frostburg propose to increase real property taxes. For the tax year beginning July 1, 2023, the estimated real property assessable base will increase by 5.1% from $371,743,156 to $390,946,427. If the city of Frostburg maintains the current tax rate of 70 cents per $100 of assessment, real property tax revenues will increase by 5.1%, resulting in $134,423 of new real property tax revenues. In order to fully offset the effect of increasing assessments, the real property tax rate should be reduced to 66.56 cents, the constant yield tax rate. The city is considering not reducing its real property tax rate enough to offset increasing assessments. The city proposes to adopt a real property tax rate of 70 cents per $100 of assessment. This tax rate is 5.1% higher than the constant yield tax rate and will generate $134,423 in additional property tax revenues. At this time, if anyone would like to make public comment regarding this matter, we'd invite you to please come to this podium, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Rick Lemmert, 513 Grandview Drive. The last time I was here about this same subject, you know, I said how much I pay in taxes, and the mayor, Flanagan, said I listed a total, and he said, well, Frostburg's only a third of that. Well, it's more than a third now. We need a tax cut in this city. I mean, we need this tax rate to drop. There are so many ways to cut taxes in this city. City Hall, for one. I mean, when I was a kid, City Hall had one employee up over the ambulance building. And I would bet that lady, I'm not sure who it was back then, she probably tabulated every water bill in this city by hand. There was no computers back then. I mean, can somebody tell me how many people we have in City Hall right now?
11 and a half.
11 and a half. Has our population gone up 11 times in the past 50 years?
We're managing millions of dollars in grants every year that take administrative staff time to manage.
We got 11 people to manage grants,
Well,
or 10?
two,
Two.
and then I can elaborate what the other staff do if you would like.
I mean,
I can go through it. I'd be happy to, Mr. Lemmert, if you would like me to take the time to do that.
really think we really need all these employees.
Yes. Yes.
How about the street department? I see that we're advertising for street department in the paper. We
That's
really need street department workers.
Yes, we're threadbare as it is.
That staff's already been cut.
Why do we contract, say when a storm drain falls in, why is that contracted out instead of the street department workers?
Well, I mean, it just depends on the situation. I mean, those guys have a lot of other stuff to cover too. So if they don't have, if they don't have time, or if it's too complex.
I see street department and water department riding through my neighborhood many times a day just to get windshield time. These guys aren't working 8 hours a day, every day. I mean, back when and I'm sure the amount in the street department has gone up in the last 50 years too, and we don't have any more streets. Back in my day, they did paving, they did much more, tar and chipped every street in the town. I mean, for me, I'd rather not hire a street department guy and split that money between the police officers. Right there is where we need the money. We don't need them on the street department. Do we have any backhoes in this city?
Yes.
How many?
Two of them. Three.
Three? Why do we have a contractor during a water break?
It's an excavator, because we only have a mini excavator, and we need a large excavator to be able to dig the deep trenches.
We don't have a backhoe?
The backhoe can't reach safely and do the job properly.
I just think there's ways to not raise these taxes, to not spend the money. I mean, I get the federal grants come in. I'm a federal taxpayer too. And the federal grants come in, and just like I'm sure the child care center, is that full steam ahead, or?
It's $531,000 has been funded by the federal government, and $350,000 has been funded by Community Development Block Grant, another state managed federal program, and the design portion has been funded by the city's American Rescue Plan Act funding received from the federal government.
Well, is that going to be city employees?
No.
No?
The primary tenant of the building will be Human Resources Development Commission that provides Head Start and early Head Start services, and the city will use the space that they use for Head Start during the school year. We will use it for our day camp that we offer in the summer months, because right now our day camp is operating out of the pavilion, not necessarily ideal for a full-time 8 to 4 program.
So, and back to the water department with the backhoe. Why could we do it before, but can't do it now?
Do what?
We didn't have a contractor before. It was totally city workers going like a water leak or something.
What are you?
To contract out excavation.
Nine times out of 10, our water leaks are handled within the city water department. That one odd time out of 10 is because we're short-staffed, guys get sick, guys have injuries, guys get laid up, and in that instance, it's safer and more cost-effective to contract someone out.
And
If
then
it's a
More
deep-
cost effective?
If it's a deep excavation where we don't have the capabilities to do it, it in the long run saves us money, because if it's a 6-inch water main and it's at 135 PSI and we're losing all that water, and someone with more capabilities is there to get it done quicker, it's more cost effective. That's why we do it.
Do we have anybody trained on backhoe?
Yes. It takes time, and obviously the better the operator, the quicker the operation, but it's a constant process of training.
Were you inquiring why we couldn't do the excavation ourselves for the daycare center?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, back to the daycare center. I know that was somebody's pet peeve, because that went out with the water bill on what would you like to see in this town, you know, and it listed probably a dozen different things. I would like to know how many people checked yes on that.
There was initially, when we received the American Rescue Plan Act funds, there were only certain things that those monies could be used for, and the city was scraping together projects to spend the $8.4 million allocation. We knew a lot would go to water and sewer, but the federal government was specifically telling us to do these community surveys and give back to your community members. And I have those surveys in my office, and there was a lot of comments in favor of a child care center.
So we're scraping together to spend the money. I mean, it's the
So-
perfect example of
They
government.
so
The problem is there's too much money and not enough.
So let me tell you how this transpired. So the child care center was identified as a project that would be suitable for the city, could be constructed on existing city property. The federal government changed the rules that the city's allocation could be used for any city government purpose. So instead of using that $900,000 of ARPA money for the child care center, the city staff sought out other federal funds so the ARPA money could be used on things like paving your streets, and that's what has been done.
Okay. Well, probably anybody on this board sees me walking up Main Street every day. I'll bet you I pick up more garbage than any city employee except for the two on the rides the back of the garbage truck. I think the condition of this town, for the people that get off this train and see this town like this, I mean, when I was a kid, and you guys probably know Coxie Race walked up and down the sidewalks on Main Street with a wheelbarrow, sweeping every day. And this guy was handicapped. Count the cigarette butts from the palace down to the library ones. What would be wrong with asking a street department guy to walk Main Street every day? Would there be anything wrong with that? No. That's all I have to say, but I think we need a tax break instead of a tax raise. And like I said, I would much rather not hire people and give them more money to these police officers. That's what we need in this town. I don't think we need anything else. Thanks.
Thank you, Rick.
I have one question. Just be, my house is worth say $200,000. How much is my taxes gonna go up?
About $70.
Much?
About $70.
Thank you.
Only if it increased. Only if her assessment.
If your assessment went up.
If your assessment stayed the same, your taxes aren't gonna go up at all.
I'm sorry.
I don't
Yeah,
guess there's
you-
anybody in
Alright,
town.
so my house is assessed at $200,000 today. Whatever I pay today stays the same?
Correct.
Now, if I sell the house and move into a house that's $300,000, then they go up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you pay it based on the 300,000.
Yes, Commissioner Carter's correct. I misspoke. If the city adopted the constant yield tax rate, your taxes would go down $70 rather than keeping the tax rate the same.
But right now, it's just gonna remain the same,
Yeah.
whatever I
If
pay.
your assessment stayed the same, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and a lot of, like we were talking about, a lot of the assessment that went up is actually commercial property. And we've added a lot of commercial property in the last couple of years. So it's,
So they have the right to appeal if they wish.
oh, sure, everybody has a right to appeal, sure.
Good luck on that.
Huh?
Try it. Good luck on that.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay.
Okay, the second public hearing tonight, Mayor, is in regards to Ordinance 2023-01. This is a text amendment to the zoning ordinance, specifically to the Technology Light Industrial District. And this text amendment would add restaurants as a special exception use to the Technology Light Industrial Zoning District, which encompasses the two business parks on exit 33 and exit 34. There is anyone wishing to make comment on this ordinance, I would ask for them to come to the podium, offer your name and address for the record in the comments, please.
Okay.
Also this evening, we have a public hearing on ordinance 2023-02, which will amend the city code regarding tax payments. The purpose of this ordinance was to remove the statement which required interest to be retroactive to July 1st of the tax year. And it also clarifies the billing and interest accrual on personal property taxes to be in conformity with state law. So if anyone has any comments regarding this ordinance, I'd ask you to go to the podium and please state your name and address for the record before making your comments.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. All right, moving on then, combined sewer overflow. Right.
Yep, so all of our combined sewer overflow projects are moving along as they should. Phase 9C is underway. We expect that to wrap up towards the end of summer. It's all going pretty well. That's in the Frostburg State University area. Phase 10A is ready to go to bid. We're just waiting on MDE final approval. Once we get that, it'll start. We're hoping for a groundbreaking towards the end of the summer, early fall. Phase 10B and 10C are in the design process, and we're hoping to get those ready for bid by the end of 2023 with a hopeful groundbreaking in 2023. But everything is still moving according to plan, and if there are any questions, be happy to elaborate.
Okay, thanks, Hayden. Appreciate it. All right, old business.
Ordinance 2023-01 was subject of an advertised public hearing earlier tonight. At this time, I would ask for a motion and a second to approve Ordinance 2023-01 on second reading.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-01 on the second reading.
Second. Moved and seconded. We've already had public comment, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The second ordinance is 2023-02. This was also subject of an advertised public hearing earlier this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion and a second to approve the ordinance on second reading.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-02 on the second reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and we've already had public comment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Elaine has is prepared to introduce the budget ordinance for you, but we wanted to do an overview again of the budget. So priorities that have been identified is maintain level of service to community, ensure safe drinking water, reliable sanitation, good streets and sidewalks, retain professional and capable staff, make sure the budget is solvent this year and into future years, as well as maintain affordability for the residents. So based on those priorities, the specific things that are in the budget this year that are notable is there is an employee salary increase. There is the budget to enroll the police department officers in the law enforcement officers pension system with the state of Maryland's retirement system. This is a significant cost, but this is a significant step forward for the city of Frostburg, as all other law enforcement entities in Allegheny County participate in LEOPS or an equivalent enhanced pension system. And it gives our police officers the ability to retire after 25 years. Some of the rates recommended by New Gen Strategies, who is in the process of doing our utility rate study, have been incorporated into the budget on the utility accounts. The budget is increased to accommodate the additional American Rescue Plan Act projects and capital purchases. There's multiple phases of CSO projects planned for the next fiscal year, and being strategic to make sure replacement equipment is being budgeted for. Some of the external forces that we are faced with in developing the budget, inflation, the cost of materials have gone up for everything. The cost of chemicals at the water treatment plant have gone up significantly. The cost of fuel and electricity, like for everyone else, has gone up for the city. And the cost of new equipment or repairing the existing equipment that we have are just growing costs. I think the price of one snowplow has doubled in less than 7 years.
7, 8 years now, yeah.
Let alone the truck, but
Yeah.
just the plow. Health insurance costs, some other insurances that we pay for vary, but budgeting for an increase in health insurance costs. The salary increases are well deserved by your employees, but they are reactionary to some extent, as Allegheny County had a salary study done that resulted in salary increases on average up to 13%. The state of Maryland is phasing in an 18% salary increase across the board, and the city of Cumberland has already implemented an 11% salary increase. Frostburg City employees have historically been paid less than all of them, so this budget includes about a 13% increase overall to employees to keep pace, at least with these other entities. competitive workforce nature, it is important, especially for the police department, to be able to remain competitive and attractive. And then lastly, as discussed at the constant yield tax rate hearing, the property assessments have gone up, increasing revenue by $134,000. So I'll turn it over to Elaine to do an overview.
So we have discussed the budget in detail at your previous work session and as well at the meeting last month. So this evening we just wanted to give a high-level overview, the summary of the budget by fund and department. This budget is balanced as is required, and you will see the total budget for this year has budgeted expenses of $18.8 million. And this is an increase of about $829,000 compared to the draft budget version that we had seen. And as we look at our revenue sources, the corporate fund continues to rely predominantly on our real estate tax revenue, but we also have significant inflow from the ARPA funds as well as other grant reimbursements, which help with some of the major projects. The water fund, you see, is balanced, and that is incorporating a 7% rate increase in the water consumption rate for all customers except the county bulk water sales. This increase in the rate of 7% generates an additional revenue to the water fund of about $67,000 we are projecting. The utility rate study had recommended preliminarily a rate increase of closer to 9%, so this is not as high as the rate study looked at, but we determined that this rate would balance the fund for this year. In the sewer fund, a significant portion of the expenses continue to be related to our CSO projects, as well as the costs of treating sewer that we pay. We are continuing to rely on grant funding to fund a lot of the CSO projects, but we do anticipate incurring debt in some of the upcoming projects as the grant funding has been decreasing and they are now offering portions of loan and loan forgiveness. In the Piney Surcharge Fund, this year we are able to actually decrease the water surcharge rate that is charged to customers because the city is paying off one of our debt instruments on May 1st, 2023. So the total expenses in the water surcharge fund will decrease by about $241,000 this year. In the garbage fund, this budget includes a rate increase of $3 per month per unit. This rate increase is necessary to cover our operating expenses, and the overall increase will be less than $1 per week for each customer. But yet, without that increase, we would not have a balanced budget. So just to highlight some of the items that we've already mentioned, this budget maintains the current tax rate of 70 cents per $100 of assessed value. So the city is not increasing our rate, it's a matter of assessments have increased. We did see an increase in the net assessable base, but part of that increase is attributable to properties that are in the enterprise zone credit eligibility, so some of that tax increase gets refunded back to those customers. And for the utility rates, there will be no changes in the sewer consumption rate, the CSO surcharge, or the bay restoration fee. This does include the water consumption rate increase of 7%, a decrease in the water surcharge rate for all customers, and the increase in the garbage rate as previously mentioned.
How much are you decreasing that water surcharge? What's the percentage on that?
I will look at the fee schedule in just one moment.
Okay.
The first thing we want to show is that the impact on a typical single customer, their overall bill will remain very much the same under the current rate structure compared to a projected bill with these new rates. Because the water surcharge rate is decreasing for a customer who uses a typical amount of 4,000 gallons per quarter, even with the increase in the water rate, their typical bill would change less than 20 cents. For a single unit who uses a more moderate consumption, around 12,000 gallons a quarter, the current bill would, compared to the projected bill, would change around $4. And that's for a quarter. And then we looked at the impact on one of our multi-unit, larger consumers who are billed monthly. They will actually see a decrease in their bill because they do not have garbage collection. So they're seeing a decrease in the surcharge that is more than the increase in their water bill. So for the customers who live inside city limits right now, their water surcharge, it would go down to $24.90 per quarter, and right now it is $35.40, I believe.
Thank you.
And as I mentioned in work session, Elaine and Trevor in her office worked really hard to determine a surcharge cut that was a reduction in the surcharge that was still a sustainable reduction in the surcharge. You know, not something that you can increase one year and have to, or decrease one year to increase later, but a sustainable decision that really neutralized the impact on your customers.
And I did need to make a correction earlier. I stated the decrease in the debt service, or excuse me, the decrease in the debt service would only be around $200,000. It's actually closer to $400,000, the decrease in the debt by paying off that one loan instrument. So this was just an overview of the budget. If anyone has specific questions or concerns or would like me to elaborate more, I'd be happy to do that either this evening, or I'd be happy to speak to anyone in my office, or reach me by email.
At this time, we'd ask for a motion and a second to approve the ordinance on first reading and set the May 18th council meeting as an advertised public hearing.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-3 on the first reading.
Second.
Move in second. Any public comment? All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Elaine.
All right. As I mentioned in the presentation regarding the budget, one of the items budgeted for is the participation in the law enforcement officers' pension system with the Maryland State Retirement. In order to participate, the state law needed to be changed. So your Western Maryland delegation, Senator McKay, Delegates Buckle and Heinball introduced legislation that successfully passed both the House and the Senate in the state. And so the state retirement system has now prepared this resolution for your consideration to enroll your certified officers in the pension system effective July 1. Your employees, as part of the process, had to vote to participate in the LEOP system, and all officers unanimously elected to participate. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to address them. Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion in a second to approve Resolution 2023-16.
I'll make a motion, we adopt resolution 2023-16.
Second.
Move in second. Any public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm surprised there was no cheers.
Thank you very much.
Well,
The next resolution resolution is a resolution that was recommended by the state retirement system, and this is called a pickup resolution. What this resolution does is it allows the employer to pick up the employee's contributions to the state retirement system so that they are not taxed federally. It has no net effect on the city's, what you contribute to the employee's pension system, but it is just a tax advantage for the employees that state legislation has enabled, but a resolution is required. So this would go into effect for all employees, not just the LEOPS employees, but also the employee pension system employees. So if there's any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion in a second to approve resolution 2023.
Does the employee put anything in the pension fund?
Yes, they still make their state contribution. But they still make the same contribution, but the contribution
Is
is
pre-tax?
pre-tax.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2023-17.
Second.
Moving second, any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
The next resolution is a matter of a formality. As discussed earlier tonight in regards to the Child Care Center, the $531,000, that was a community project grant, or otherwise known as a congressional earmark, was in the budget, the federal budget that the president did sign. However, the funding for the Frostburg Child Care Center is being administered by USDA Rural Development, and so we have to follow USDA Rural Development's process. And we've been moving forward with this project in terms of design, so that we can be ready to go to construction as soon as possible, as these federal funds need to be spent in 1 year. But anyway, all that being said, USDA has asked us to submit a full application for the funding that we've already been awarded, and so this resolution authorizes that application. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion in a second to approve resolution 2023-18.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2023-18.
Second.
Moving second, any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
And then lastly, also in relation to the Child Care Center, because of the USDA requirements, the bid documents have to be in AIA format, American Institute of Architects format, which we had not told and were not aware that they needed to be in that format when we were initially working with Bennett Brewer and Associates, our engineering consultant. So this resolution would increase the design contract in the amount of $6,400 to allow the bid documents to be prepared in AIA format. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'd ask for a motion in a second to approve resolution 2023-19.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2023-19.
Second.
Moving second, any public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Liz, thank you. Chief, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Good evening. Just have a brief report for the Police Department for the month of March 2023. We had 724 incidents compared to 621 the year before in March. I made a slight adjustment that I emailed you today, but we had a total of 20 arrests for the month of March. And as you can see, as always, policing is a very diverse profession, so we're doing everything from well-being checks, a lot of catch-all type things, requests for officers, disturbances. We had 38 of them, 56 requests for a police officer, 81 traffic details, 6 emergency petitions, 30 assist other agencies, which can be backing up other police departments, the ambulance service, the fire department. That could be a variety of things. So our officers really do work hard. They're out there every day, really taking care of this community to the best of their ability. And it, like we saw earlier with the presentations, it can go from a parking ticket or a traffic detail to a shooting or something very serious in no time, and it does happen. So your officers really put their lives on the line. They put their hearts and invest themselves in this community. And I want you to know that all of your police officers are very appreciative of your support for the police department, of the passage of the LEOPS resolution, and that's been that's a legacy achievement really for the city, for the mayor and council, for the administration, for the police department. I know the entirety of the time I've been here, Lieutenant Sykes has been here longer than me, and of course the mayor and Commissioner Grove. That's been an issue that's been talked about for a long, long time, well over 20 years, and today being kind of the last police department that hadn't enrolled made it difficult for retention and recruiting, those sorts of things. So I really think that's a legacy. I think a lot of the people in the law enforcement community will be talking after tonight or tomorrow when they hear that news. And again, we're very appreciative of your support for public safety in Frostburg and our police officers. So that concludes my report, but if there's anything you'd like me to talk about further or elaborate on, I would be glad to.
All right, that's good. Had a good night, Chief. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Open public comment. Any citizens wishing to address the mayor and council, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Adjourned.